Welcome! I'm truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 1347. You're in the Holy Land, not on a glorious charge, but deep in the unrelenting, oppressive heat of it all. You feel the sun beat down, a relentless hammer on your helmet, cooking the metal until it radiates an unbearable warmth against your scalp. Dust, fine as flour, coats everything: your tongue, the inside of your nose, the heavy wool of your tunic. It's a constant, gritty companion, making every breath a struggle, every swallow a dry, rasping effort. Suddenly, a sound rips through the thick air, sharp and brutal, a deafening clang of steel on stone, a sound so immediate and jarring it vibrates through your teeth. A sword. Dropped. It's not the dull thud you might expect on soft ground. No. This is the unmistakable, piercing ring of a weighty blade striking hard, embedded pebbles beneath the thin layer of sand. You flinch, your head snapping towards the source, the sudden movement stirring the stale air around your face, offering no relief. Your eyes, already squinting against the blinding glare, dart over to the small cluster of men near the makeshift tent. One of them, a gaunt younger recruit whose face is permanently etched with a grim exhaustion, stands frozen, his hand still extended, now empty. The sword lies at his feet, its polished surface catching the merciless sun like a malicious mirror. Its hilt is a dark, heavy thing, a familiar weight you know all too well. You watch him. He doesn't move, doesn't even bend to retrieve it immediately. He just stares at the fallen blade, as if it were a venomous snake, a profound weariness settling even deeper into his shoulders. The sudden noise has sliced through the quiet hum of flies and the distant murmur of voices, leaving a brief, heavy silence in its wake. Every man within earshot has turned, a silent, shared acknowledgement of the fragile state they all exist in. It's a moment of collective breath-holding. You feel the sweat trickling down your back, a cold river beneath the layers of chainmail and cloth. Your fingers instinctively grip the hilt of your own sword, a familiar, comforting presence at your side, yet also a heavy, constant reminder of where you are. And why? The silence stretches, thick and hot, filled only by the frantic beat of your own pulse in your ears. The younger man finally moves, a slow, deliberate stoop, and picks up the offending blade, almost tenderly, as if it might shatter. He doesn't meet anyone's gaze. Just the simple act of a dropped sword. Yet it feels like the breaking point of something much larger, something far heavier than just steel. You understand. It's not the fall that resonates, but the sound, the undeniable, raw noise of a reality you'd rather forget. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious. Where in the world are you listening from? And what time is it there? Share in the comments. Sometimes, the loudest sounds aren't those of battle, but the small, accidental noises that pierce the quiet, reminding you of every weight you carry, seen and unseen. The sun beats down, a constant, oppressive weight you've learned to endure, but never quite accept. You shift your shoulders, a small, almost imperceptible adjustment, trying to alleviate the relentless pressure. The chainmail, meant to protect, now feels like a living, breathing burden, its thousands of tiny metal rings digging and grating against the back of your neck. It's not just the weight itself, though that alone is enough to make your shoulders ache. It's the texture, rough and unyielding, chafing against skin that is raw, tender, and angry. You can feel the sting of the sunburn beneath the mail, a persistent, fiery itch that no amount of scratching can relieve. Every slight movement, every turn of your head, sends a fresh wave of discomfort through you. The tiny metal links rub, like fine grit on an open wound. You try to adjust the padded collar underneath, but it's soaked with sweat and matted. Offering little cushioning, it just shifts the pressure, never truly removing it. You're standing guard, watching the shimmering horizon, where heat haze distorts the distant dunes into fluid, mocking mirages. Your eyes are dry, gritty from the dust, and your vision blurs around the edges. You clench your jaw, tasting the metallic tang of dried blood from where you've bitten your lip, a habit born of silent endurance. You see another man, older, his face a road map of lines etched by sun and worry, pass by. He glances at you, his eyes meeting yours for just a second, a flicker of shared understanding passing between you. He doesn't need to speak. The slight slump of his shoulders, the way he gingerly adjusts his own mail, tells you he feels it too. The same persistent, soul-sapping discomfort. A wave of dizziness washes over you, momentarily blurring the world. You steady yourself, planting your feet more firmly in the shifting sand, feeling the heat radiate up through the worn leather of your boots. The sun is a malevolent eye in the sky, watching, judging, burning. You take a slow, shallow breath, trying to ignore the constant friction on your neck, focusing instead on the vast, empty expanse before you. It's a relentless grind, this life. Each day is just another layer of heat, another grain of sand, another ache in your body. But that grating on your neck? That's a constant, personal reminder, a whisper of irritation that never fades. It's a heavy whisper, insistent and demanding, a promise of permanent discomfort. The smell hits you first, a thick, suffocating wall that doesn't just enter your nostrils, but coats the back of your throat. It's not a simple odor, but a dense, suffocating blend. The sour tang of unwashed bodies, days of stale sweat, the cloying sweetness of vomit, the sharp, acidic bite of human waste, and something else, something metallic and sickeningly sweet, like old blood and desperation. You try to take a deeper breath, but the air you pull in only carries more of it, a physical weight that presses against your lungs. You are crammed in, shoulder to shoulder, with dozens of other men, each radiating their own particular brand of misery and reek. The air is heavy, humid, stagnant, pressing down on you with a palpable force. Your skin feels clammy and slick, not just from your own sweat, but from the heat radiating off the bodies pressed against you on all sides. You can feel the rough, splintered wood of the bench beneath you, digging into your thighs, and the relentless, unforgiving chafe of the iron shackle around your ankle. Every small movement sends a fresh wave of discomfort through your already aching limbs. The galley itself groans around you, a constant symphony of creaking timbers and the rhythmic splash of unseen waves against the hull. Below deck, the light is dim, struggling to penetrate from a few small grates above. You can barely make out the faces around you, ghostly blurs in the gloom, their eyes dull and sunken, mirroring your own exhaustion. Their ragged breathing, the occasional cough, the low, guttural moans of sickness. They all blend into the ship's symphony, a human counterpoint to the relentless, impersonal heave of the sea. You feel a wave of nausea roll through you, the stench making your stomach clench. You swallow hard, trying to push it down, focusing on the dull ache in your muscles, on the raw skin where the chains rub. It's a constant, mind-numbing degradation. There's no privacy, no clean air, no escape from the relentless press of bodies, each one a testament to the brutal reality of this floating prison. You just sit, or rather are held captive by the collective malodorous mass, your very breath a forced, contaminated act. You avert your gaze from the man beside you, whose chest heaves with a rattling cough, knowing that he, like you, is just trying to survive another moment in this putrid, confined world. Even when you close your eyes, the smell persists, burning behind your eyelids, a permanent stain on your senses. It's more than just a bad odor. It's a living, breathing testament to how quickly dignity can be stripped away, leaving only the raw, animal instinct to endure. Your hand reaches out, slow and deliberate, to accept the meager offering. It's a biscuit, or what passes for one, a flat, hardened disc the color of old wood. You can already tell by the weight that it's almost completely dry, brittle to the touch. You bring it closer, careful not to jostle it too much, and the first thing you notice isn't a fresh, wholesome smell, but a sharp, almost biting taste of salt that seems to rise from its very surface, a hint of something metallic and stale. As your eyes adjust to the dim light filtering into this cramped space, you see them. Tiny, pale bodies, wriggling with a disturbing, independent life, burrowed into the biscuit's dry cracks. Maggots. They are everywhere, small white threads, moving with an unsettling rhythm. Your stomach lurches, a familiar, unwelcome protest. You've seen this before, many times, but it never gets easier. The revulsion is immediate, visceral. You hesitate, the biscuit held loosely in your fingers. The gnawing hunger in your belly, however, is a more powerful, more insistent master. It's a dull, constant ache that overshadows everything else. With a grim resolve, you close your eyes for a brief moment, trying to push away the image, to mute the reality of what you are about to do. You bring the biscuit to your mouth, your teeth closing around it with a crunch. The taste explodes in your mouth, a harsh, overwhelming saltiness, like swallowing seawater mixed with stale flour. But then, underneath that, comes the truly unsettling part, a distinct, sickly sweet flavor, the unmistakable tang of decay, of something that has turned and rotted. And then, the texture, not just the dry, crumbly hardness of the biscuit, but a faint, squirming sensation, a soft, yielding crunch that is utterly, terribly alien. You can feel them, a slight resistance against your tongue, a delicate popping. You chew, forcing yourself to ignore the protests of your senses, the raw gag reflex rising in your throat. Each bite is a deliberate act of will, a battle against your own instincts. You can feel the eyes of other prisoners on you, gaunt faces watching with a mixture of desperate hunger and a shared, unspoken understanding. They know. They are doing the same or will do the same. This is survival. The food is sustenance, not enjoyment. It's a raw, primal act of keeping the flickering flame of life alight. You finish the last crumb, the taste of salt and rot lingering on your tongue, a bitter reminder of how far you've fallen. The memory of simple, wholesome bread feels like a dream from another life, a luxury almost unimaginable now. You swallow, the dryness in your throat made worse by the biscuit, and feel a deep, abiding emptiness, both in your stomach and in your soul. A persistent, insidious heat radiates from your side, a dull throb beneath layers of filthy cloth. But it's not just the heat. It's a deep, maddening itch that burns, that prickles, that crawls beneath your skin, utterly unreachable. It feels like 1,000 tiny insects are feasting on you, relentless and unforgiving. You try to ignore it, to focus on the endless sway of the ship, the distant cries of gulls, anything else. But it's there, a constant burning reminder of the wound. You instinctively press your hand against the spot, feeling the rough, stiff fabric of the bandage. It's not a proper dressing, just a torn piece of tunic, crusted with dried blood and something else, something yellow and sickly. The pressure momentarily dulls the itch, but it also sends a fresh wave of aching pain through the wound itself. You can almost feel the edges of the gash, raw and angry, stretching and pulling under the pressure of the makeshift binding. The smell reaches you then, a faint but unmistakable stench that you've grown grimly accustomed to. A sickly sweet odor, metallic and cloying, the unmistakable scent of infection. It rises from beneath the rags, a subtle whisper that confirms your fears, seeping into the crowded, stagnant air around you. You try to shift, to lean away from it, but there's nowhere to go in this cramped space. Every small movement exacerbates the discomfort, sending sharp jabs through your ribs, intensifying the burning itch until it feels like fire. You glance down at the bundle of rags, now darkened with fluid, a testament to the internal battle being waged within your own flesh. The fabric itself feels damp and clammy against your skin, a breeding ground for whatever unseen horrors are working their way deeper into your body. You long to tear the bandage off, to scratch the relentless itch until your skin is raw, to let the cool air reach the burning flesh. But you know that would only make it worse, open it up to more of the pervasive grime of this vessel. So you endure, clenching your teeth, trying to breathe shallowly to avoid the faint, putrid smell. Your body feels heavy, weighed down not just by exhaustion, but by the relentless, distracting pain of this festering wound. It's a constant companion, a burning ember within you, a grim testament to the battles fought and lost, now demanding its own relentless attention. You feel a weakness spreading through your limbs, a creeping weariness that isn't just from lack of sleep, but from the slow, insidious drain of the infection. This wound, this itch, this burning, it consumes you from the inside out, a secret personal torture in the midst of shared misery. The world around you doesn't just move, it lurches. It's a relentless, stomach-turning heave and fall, a sickening rhythm that has become your constant companion. The timbers of the galley groan, a deep, resonant complaint beneath your feet, echoing the turmoil in your gut. You feel the deck drop out from under you, a sudden void, then slam upwards with a jarring force that sends a shockwave through your spine. Then it lists, heavily, to one side, holding for a terrifying moment before sliding back, only to begin the whole nauseating cycle again. Your stomach clenches, a knot of pure dread and sickness tightening with each shift. You swallow hard, again and again, trying to suppress the bile rising in your throat. Your head swims, and you press the heels of your hands against your temples, as if you could physically hold your brain still against the relentless motion. The air, already thick with the stench of unwashed bodies and fear, feels even heavier, more suffocating. Each breath a struggle to avoid triggering the inevitable. You close your eyes, but it offers no respite. The internal sense of disequilibrium only intensifies, a dizzying whirl that makes you feel untethered, lost in a sickening, boundless space. You can hear the retching of other men around you, the desperate, miserable sounds of bodies expelling what little they have in them. Their groans and coughs are a grim chorus to the relentless rocking, a constant reminder that you are not alone in this suffering, yet it does nothing to ease your own internal churning. A fresh wave of nausea washes over you, stronger this time. You lean forward, bracing yourself with your chained hands, your breath catching in your throat. Your vision swims, black spots dancing at the edges of your sight. It's a fight. Every single moment, against the urge to vomit, against the primal fear that this ceaseless movement will never end, that you are destined to be adrift in this internal and external storm forever. The fear itself is a cold, clammy hand gripping your heart, amplifying the physical sickness, until it feels like your very soul is being twisted. You open your eyes, looking at the dim, swaying planks of the ship, trying to find some fixed point, something solid in this chaotic world. But there is none. Just the endless, relentless heave of the sea, a powerful, indifferent force that cares nothing for the misery it inflicts. You take another shallow breath, tasting the salt and bile at the back of your throat, and cling to the grim hope that eventually this sickening torment must subside. You step onto solid ground, your legs still unsteady from weeks at sea, but a different sensation, a different smell, immediately claims your senses. It's a smell so utterly familiar, yet so profoundly forgotten, that it hits you with the force of a physical blow. Damp earth. Not the dry, choking dust of the Holy Land, nor the metallic tang of a galley's hold, but the rich, living scent of wet soil, cool and deep. It's infused with something else, something equally ancient and reassuring. The earthy, pungent aroma of manure, carried on a breeze that actually feels cool. You take a shaky breath, letting the scent fill your lungs, and it's like a forgotten memory suddenly rushing back, overwhelming your other senses. This isn't the oppressive alien air of distant lands. This is the air of home, or what you remember of it. The subtle sweetness of growing things, the hint of wood smoke from a distant hearth, all mingling with that deep, fundamental smell of worked land. It's dirty, yes, but it's a clean kind of dirt, a healthy, familiar odor that speaks of life and growth, not decay and desperation. You find yourself standing on a small, muddy track, leading away from the small, bustling port. The sky above is a familiar, soft gray, not the harsh, blinding blue you've become accustomed to. Rain has clearly fallen recently, leaving puddles that reflect the muted light like dark, uncertain eyes. You can feel the soft give of the mud beneath your worn boots, a stark contrast to the unforgiving sand or the hard, creaking deck. Around you, the sounds are different too, not the endless waves, nor the harsh commands of the guards, but the distant bleating of sheep, the lowing of cattle, the call of a farmer, faint and far away. These are the sounds of your forgotten homeland, simple, elemental, and utterly peaceful. You see a few gnarled trees, their branches bare against the winter sky, but somehow they seem more inviting than any date palm. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the damp, cool air wash over your face, letting the smells of earth and farm life seep into your very bones. It's a bittersweet moment. A wave of profound relief washes through you, a feeling you haven't truly known in years, mixed with a strange, unsettling uncertainty. This place, this smell, this air, it's home. But you are no longer the same man who left it. The scent of manure, once just a common part of life, now feels like a profound reconnection to a world you thought you'd never touch again. It's not just a smell, it's a portal. But to what? The ground beneath your feet feels impossibly soft after so long. You breathe deeply once more, allowing the rich, earthy scent to ground you, even as the realization of how much has changed both in the world and within you begins to settle in. It's the smell of life, yes, but also a stark reminder of the chasm between who you were and who you are now. The cool, damp air washes over your face, a welcome caress you've craved for months, filled with the undeniable scent of home, damp earth, fresh rain, and the distant, reassuring tang of wood smoke. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the familiar chill seep into your bones, trying to fully anchor yourself in this moment, this place. But then, as you draw a deeper breath, something alien, something sharp and exotic, slices through the comfort. It's a ghost of a smell, distinct and unsettling, carried on the very same familiar breeze. Cardamom. And something else. A hint of cumin, perhaps, or the heavy, sweet, almost cloying perfume of a distant bazaar. It's the scent of the desert, of crowded markets under a merciless sun, of lands you swore you'd left behind forever. Your eyes snap open, wide, as you turn your head, searching frantically for a source. A spice merchant's cart, perhaps? A foreign sailor passing by? But there's nothing. Just the gray, muddy track, the familiar gnarled trees, the muted palette of your own land. Yet, the phantom scent persists, clinging to the cool air, a stark, unwelcome memory. It's a cruel trick of your senses, a vivid impression of a world that should be thousands of miles away, now inexplicably woven into the fabric of your longed-for homecoming. The damp earth under your boots feels solid, real, but the air you breathe is suddenly fractured, pulling you between two vastly different realities. You press a hand to your chest, feeling the ragged beat of your heart, a sudden rush of disorientation making your head spin. This isn't just a lingering memory. It feels like a physical presence, an invisible shroud draped over you, reminding you of the sweat, the fear, the endless days under a blistering sun. The familiar sounds of distant village life, the lowing of cattle, a child's shout, seem muffled, distant, as if you're hearing them through a veil of desert dust. The contradiction is jarring, a dissonance that aches in your very core. You were so sure you could simply step back into this world, shed the grit and grime of the Holy Land like an old tunic. But this faint, persistent perfume tells you otherwise. It whispers that some parts of the desert, some of its indelible marks, have somehow come home with you, clinging to your senses, making a mockery of your supposed return. You are here, but a part of you is still there, caught between two worlds, unable to fully escape the ghosts of what you've seen and smelled. You stand on the threshold of your home, a small, worn cottage that feels both intimately familiar and utterly alien. The door creaks open, and a figure emerges. It's him, your son, But he's no longer the small boy you left behind. He's taller, broader. His shoulders set, his face no longer round with childish softness, but etched with the faint beginnings of manhood. His eyes, the same shade as your own, hold a cautious, almost wary expression as they meet yours. Then he steps forward. His hand reaches out, not with the eager embrace of a child, but with a tentative, almost formal gesture, resting lightly on your arm. It's a touch you remember, a warmth you've longed for, yet it feels entirely new, unfamiliar. His fingers, once small and grasping, are now strong and calloused, betraying years of work in the fields or smithy. The innocent lightness is gone, replaced by a subtle weight, a gravity that speaks of time and experience. You look down at his hand on your arm, then up at his face. There's a ghost of the boy you knew in his features, a shadow of his mother's smile around his lips. But the light in his eyes is different. It's not the open, trusting gaze of a son. It's the guarded look of a man meeting another man, a stranger perhaps, someone he has heard stories about but doesn't truly know. You feel a pang, sharp and unexpected, a cold ache spreading through your chest. You want to pull him into an embrace, to feel the familiar weight of his small body against yours, to inhale the scent of him. But you hesitate, caught by the strangeness of his touch, the unexpected formality in his posture. Your own hands, gnarled and scarred, feel rough and out of place, unworthy of the pure innocence you remember. You see him swallow, his gaze flicking to the ground, then back to your face, searching perhaps for something that isn't there. The silence stretches, heavy and uncomfortable, filled with unspoken questions and years of separation. His hand is still on your arm, a gentle, almost hesitant pressure. It's a bridge, yes, but a fragile one, built across a chasm of time and unspoken experiences. You feel the warmth of his skin, a real, tangible connection, yet his touch speaks more of respect than affection, of duty rather than innate bond. He is here, he is real, but the boy you dreamt of, the child who would run to you without thought, has vanished, replaced by this earnest, unfamiliar young man. And with that realization, a new kind of desolation begins to settle in your weary bones. This return home is not a simple reunion. It is an introduction to a stranger. Your eyes finally meet hers, not with the frantic joy or tearful relief you might have imagined, but with a slow, hesitant motion, as if both of you are afraid of what you might find. You search her gaze for the familiar sparkle, the intimate knowledge that once passed between you without words, the warmth that was your refuge. Instead, you find a stillness, a depth that feels impossibly vast, like looking into a deep, dark well. It's not cold, not angry, but simply distant. Tired, perhaps, burdened. The silence that stretches between you is not an empty one. It's heavy, almost palpable, pressing in on you, making your ears ring with its unspoken weight. This quiet should be filled with 1,000 questions, 100 reassurances, but instead it pulses with the chasm of years, of unshared fears and uncelebrated joys. You hear the faint creak of the floorboards beneath your boots, the distant murmur of the hearth, but everything else is swallowed by this profound, unsettling quiet. She doesn't move. Her hands, calloused and worn, remain clasped loosely in front of her simple wool apron. There's no rush to embrace, no familiar comfort offered, just that steady, unwavering gaze that seems to look through you rather than at you. You see a faint tightening around her eyes, a shadow of the woman you remember. But the light that once danced there, the welcoming flicker, has dimmed, replaced by a weary resignation. It's as if she sees not the man she married, but a weathered ghost, a relic from a lifelong past. You feel a profound, aching cold spread through your chest, a loneliness more acute than any you experienced in the desert. The unuttered words hang in the air like thick smoke, each breath you take feeling heavy with them. You want to speak, to bridge the gap with a simple name, a shared memory, but your throat feels tight, suddenly parched, and you fear that any sound you make would shatter the fragile, strained peace. Her eyes hold no accusation, no blame, only that immense, quiet distance. It speaks of countless nights spent alone, of worries carried without you, of a life that moved on, shaped itself, without your presence. You realize, with a crushing certainty, that the chasm isn't merely the physical miles you traveled, but a landscape of time and experience that has carved two separate paths. She is a stranger to you now, and you, a stranger to her, despite the shared history that echoes faintly in the corners of her eyes. This heavy silence is her story, and it tells you everything about the life she's lived while you were gone. You sit at the rough-hewn table, a wooden bowl steaming gently before you. Its pottage, thick and unassuming, a familiar staple of home. You lift the spoon, your hand feeling strangely heavy, and bring it to your lips. The first taste is not the explosion of flavor you might once have remembered, nor the harsh, metallic tang of blood, or the sickening sweetness of decay you've grown used to. Instead, it's just bland, deeply, profoundly bland. The warmth spreads through your mouth, comforting in its temperature, but the taste itself is muted, almost absent. You detect the faintest hint of root vegetables, perhaps some barley, cooked down into a thick, heavy gruel. It's nourishing, you know it is, but after years of meager rations, of scorched meat, of maggot-infested biscuits, of the sharp, desperate taste of hunger, this simple, peacetime meal feels utterly devoid of sensation. You swallow, the heavy consistency coating your tongue, and try another spoonful. You watch your son across the table, his face illuminated by the flickering hearth fire, eating with a steady, unthinking rhythm. He seems to find comfort in it, a quiet satisfaction. Your wife beside him, her movements precise and measured, also eats in silence, her gaze mostly fixed on her own bowl. They eat as if this is normal, as if food has always been a gentle, unassuming presence. But for you, the blandness is jarring. Your palate, accustomed to extremes, the fierce salt of preserved meat, the bitterness of desert herbs, the absence of flavor when starvation looms, struggles to register this gentle simplicity. It feels dull, almost inert. You miss the sharp edge of spices, the intense richness of unfamiliar ingredients, even the desperate primal taste of food fought for. This pottage is the taste of safety, of routine, of a life that is continued without the daily threat of death or starvation. It fills your belly, a slow, spreading warmth, but it does nothing to satisfy a deeper, almost forgotten craving for something more. The pottage is sustenance, pure and simple, but it carries none of the vibrant, sometimes terrifying intensity of the food you ate when your life hung in the balance. It feels heavy in your gut, not just from its thickness, but from the weight of what it represents. A peacetime existence that your senses, your very being, are struggling to comprehend. This food, so plain and honest, is a stark reminder of the world you left and the man you have become, a man whose tongue now finds peace tasteless. A burst of sound erupts from the far end of the great hall, sharp and sudden, cutting through the low hum of conversation and the gentle crackle of the hearth fire. It's laughter. Loud, uninhibited, almost raucous. It rolls across the stone floor and bounces off the high, timbered ceiling, filling every corner of the vast space. You watch, numb, as faces around a distant table contort with mirth, their heads thrown back, their mouths wide, revealing teeth. But the sound, instead of sparking warmth or recognition, feels jarring. It's an echo, hollow and strangely disembodied, as if you're hearing it from beneath water or through a veil. Your ears register the noise, yes, but your mind struggles to process it. This sound, once so familiar, now feels alien, a foreign language, spoken by people whose joy seems almost reckless, impossible. You find yourself tensing, an involuntary flinch in your shoulders, your jaw tightening. You try to understand it, this cascade of pure, carefree delight. You search the faces of the men and women sharing drinks and stories, their cheeks flushed with ale and good cheer. They are alive, vibrant, truly present in this moment of uncomplicated happiness. Yet the sound of their laughter, even as it reverberates around the sturdy walls, fails to penetrate some deeper part of you. It simply bounces off, leaving a strange, quiet emptiness in its wake. The warmth of the hall, the scent of roasting meat, the soft glow of the candles, all contribute to a scene of peace you once longed for. But this laughter, above all else, highlights the chasm within you. You instinctively scan the room, your eyes still searching for an unseen threat, a reason for the sudden burst of noise that would normally signify alarm, not pleasure. It's a reflex, ingrained deep in your bones, that this kind of loud, unrestrained sound should precede pain, not joy. You glance at your own reflection in a polished goblet, a gaunt, unfamiliar face staring back, eyes too old, too watchful. There's no trace of that easy mirth there. The laughter of these people, your own people, sounds like a phantom limb ache, a ghostly sensation from a life you once lived but can no longer inhabit. It's a sound that should resonate with comfort and belonging, but instead, it merely amplifies your sense of being utterly, irrevocably adrift. Your understanding of such joy feels irretrievably lost, replaced by an ingrained quietness that sees revelry as a vulnerability, a dangerous exposure. The quiet calm of the afternoon is suddenly shattered by a sharp, rhythmic clang. Clang! Clang! It's a metallic strike, insistent and powerful, ripping through the familiar sounds of village life. The distant bleating of sheep, the rustle of wind through bare branches. Your body tenses instantly, every muscle coiling tight, a cold spike of adrenaline shooting through your veins. Your hand instinctively flies to where your sword hilt should be, only to find empty air. Your breath hitches shallow and quick as your eyes dart around, searching frantically for the source, for the enemy, for any sign of attack. Your mind screams, "Steel! Swords! Battle!" The sound is too precise, too brutal, too much like the clash of blades that defined your existence for years. Your heart pounds, a frantic drum against your ribs, accelerating until it feels like it might burst. Then, your eyes land on it. The blacksmith's forge, a plume of smoke curling lazily from its chimney, just down the path. You see the smith, a burly man with forearms like tree trunks, his silhouette framed in the open doorway lit by the orange glow of the furnace. He's raising a heavy hammer, bringing it down with practiced force onto a glowing red piece of iron resting on his anvil. Clang! Clang! The sound reverberates, each strike sending tiny sparks flying. It's just a hammer. On an anvil, working metal, building, not destroying. The realization washes over you, cold and disorienting, like a bucket of icy water. Your tensed muscles slowly begin to relax, but the adrenaline still hums beneath your skin, leaving you trembling slightly. Your breath slowly evens out, though it feels ragged, forced. The sheer overwhelming clarity of the sound, so innocent to these villagers, had been utterly indistinguishable from the brutal symphony of war in your mind. You watch the smith for a long moment, his steady, deliberate rhythm now seeming almost peaceful, a cadence of honest work, but the terror, the instantaneous visceral fear, had been real. It's a stark, unsettling reminder of how deeply the war has etched itself into you, twisting even the most mundane sounds into harbingers of violence. The clang of the hammer still echoes in your ears, but now it's a hollow sound, a testament not to a present danger, but to the ghosts that still walk beside you, unseen. This peace, this quiet village, feels like a fragile illusion, constantly threatened by the echoes of a war that refuses to be left behind. Your gaze sweeps over the village, over the familiar, half-timbered houses, the muddy lanes, the fields stretching towards the distant gray line of trees. You should feel a surge of comfort, a warm familiarity. But instead, a strange sense of disappointment settles over you, a muted ache behind your eyes. The colors. They are all so dull. Everything here seems to exist in shades of brown, gray, and an indistinct, faded green. The winter sky hangs low and heavy, a uniform sheet of pewter. The thatch roofs are the color of dried straw, the wooden walls weathered to a deep, unassuming ochre. Even the clothes worn by the villagers, drab tunics, woolen cloaks, are variations of earth tones, practical and plain. It's a landscape of browns and muted greens, devoid of any vibrant, striking hues. Your mind involuntarily conjures images of the East, the blinding white of sun-scorched stone, the brilliant, shimmering blue of the desert sky, so sharp it almost hurt to look at. You remember the riot of colors in the bazaars, vivid crimson silks, deep indigo dyes, shocking emerald green spices piled high, the burnished gold of ornaments, the kaleidoscopic patterns of countless banners fluttering in the wind, each a bold, unapologetic statement. Even the blood, when it flowed, had a shocking visceral brilliance against the stark, pale sand. Here, everything is subdued. The light is soft, diffuse, unable to cut through the perpetual haze. It strips the world of its sharpness, its intensity. You see your wife walking towards the well, her simple brown dress blending almost seamlessly into the background. A stark contrast to the memory of women in vibrant, flowing robes, their movements like liquid fire against the harsh backdrop. This muted palette feels like a heavy blanket draped over the world, stifling its vibrancy. It's safe, yes, familiar, but it lacks the fierce, almost painful intensity that defined every moment of your time in the Holy Land. Even the air feels less vibrant, cooler, not the hot, burning breath of the desert that made every color seem to throb with life. You realize that your eyes, once assaulted by the relentless, brutal splendor of the East, now struggle to find purchase in this gentle, unassuming landscape. It's not that it's ugly. It's just quiet. Too quiet, too understated, a visual echo of the profound internal silence that now defines you. The colors of home, once so comforting, now merely underscore the vibrant, terrifying memories that still blaze in your mind. The gentle rhythm of your wife's breathing beside you, the familiar creak of the old bed, the soft glow of moonlight through the window, these are the sounds and sights of peace. You should be sleeping deeply, restfully. But then it begins. Not a slow descent into terror, but a sudden, violent plunge. You are back in the Holy Land. The sun is a relentless, vengeful eye in the sky, burning down on cracked earth. The smell of dust, sweat, and something else, something metallic and thick, blood fills your nostrils, making you choke. You hear the distant roar of men, the clang of steel, the screams. It's a symphony of chaos. So real, so immediate, that it burns brighter and hotter than the muted daylight of your own home. You feel the sand crunch under your boots, feel the weight of your sword in your hand, its hilt slick with sweat. The sun reflects off 1,000 enemy blades, a blinding, shimmering wave advancing towards you. You taste the grit of sand on your tongue, the coppery tang of fear. Every detail is sharper, more vivid, more excruciatingly present than anything you've experienced since returning home. The vibrant, violent colors of battle, the shouts, the sheer, overwhelming terror, it's all here, consuming you. You try to move, to run, to strike, but your limbs are heavy, unresponsive, trapped. You feel the crushing weight of panic, the burning in your lungs as you try to scream, but no sound escapes your throat. The heat is unbearable, a furnace that threatens to melt your very bones, and yet it feels realer, more vital, than the cool, damp air of your own bedchamber. Suddenly you gasp, a desperate, shuddering breath, and your eyes fly open. You're back. In the darkness of your cottage, the moonlight is still there, soft and silver. Your wife stirs beside you, murmuring faintly in her sleep. But the images, the smells, the sounds, they don't vanish. They cling to the edges of your vision, a burning afterimage, a phantom taste on your tongue. Your heart is pounding, a frantic drum against your ribs, and your body is slick with cold sweat, trembling uncontrollably. The nightmares are not mere memories. They are raw, living wounds, burning with an intensity that daylight can't extinguish. They are more real, more visceral, than the quiet peace you've returned to, turning sleep into another battlefield, a place where the Crusades rage on, hotter and fiercer than any waking sun. You sit by the hearth, the fire's glow painting, dancing shadows on the rough-hewn walls. Your hands, calloused and scarred from years of battle, and now, attempting to work the fields, rest idly on your knees. The air is still, save for the soft crackle of burning wood and the distant sound of your wife preparing for bed. It's a scene of domestic peace, utterly ordinary. But then, a subtle, disturbing sensation begins to creep into your right hand. It's not a pain, not an itch, but a phantom weight. an insistent memory of a form that is no longer there. You feel the cool, solid grip of a sword hilt pressing into your palm, the familiar rough texture of the leather binding, the precise curve of the guard fitting against your knuckles. It's so real, so vivid, that your fingers instinctively clench, trying to close around the non-existent steel. Your hand trembles, a small, involuntary spasm. The sensation is utterly convincing, a ghost limb that only you can feel. You can almost feel the balance of the blade, the way its weight would settle in your grip, ready for a swing, a parry, a thrust. It's a muscle memory so deeply ingrained, so utterly a part of who you were, that even now, in this quiet, peaceful room, it asserts its presence with a chilling clarity. You look down at your empty hand, flex your fingers, try to dispel the illusion. But it persists. A stubborn, phantom presence, mocking the peace you've returned to. Your thumb rubs against where the pommel would be. Your index finger rests along the imaginary fuller of the blade. It's a constant, silent conversation between your body and a weapon that defined your existence. This phantom sword grip is a cruel reminder that while you may have left the battlefield has not left you. It's woven itself into the very fabric of your flesh, your nerves, your muscle. This is the hand that protected, that killed, that endured. Now, in its quiet, empty state, it still longs for the familiar weight of its purpose. It's a terrifying, tangible echo of the war, a physical manifestation of a past that refuses to stay buried. You rub your hand, trying to shake the feeling, but it clings. A permanent scar, not on your skin, but in your very being. A silent testament to the warrior you still are, despite the world telling you to be a farmer. You're sitting by the hearth, trying to focus on the small, mundane task of sharpening a rusty farm tool. The rhythmic rasp of stone on metal, a dull comfort. Your son is across the room, quietly mending a net, and your wife moves about the kitchen, preparing for the evening meal. The air is warm, thick with the scent of wood smoke, and a faint aroma of herbs. It's peaceful, truly peaceful. Then, a sudden ear-splitting sleeter rips through the quiet. It's the sharp, heavy sound of metal striking stone, loud and immediate, echoing through the small cottage. Your entire body seizes, an involuntary, violent flinch that sends your heart leaping into your throat. Your head snaps up, your eyes wide and unfocused, already searching for the threat, for the source of the attack. Your hand, in a reflex older than thought, shoots out, scrambling for a weapon that isn't there. Your knuckles brushing against the cold, empty air. Your breath catches, trapped in your lungs, as your muscles coil, ready to spring, ready to fight. The familiar, icy tendril of adrenaline shoots through your veins, a cold wave of terror that washes over you, momentarily blinding you to your surroundings. For a fraction of a second, you're not in your cozy cottage. You're back on the battlefield, the clang of the kettle, a death knell, a sword meeting shield, a signal for blood. Then, your vision clears. Your wife stands frozen by the hearth, her own hand still reaching for the kettle she just dropped. It lies on the stone floor, a simple pot, now slightly dented but harmless. Her eyes, wide with surprise and a hint of something like fear, meet yours across the room. She sees your tensed posture, your frantic gaze, the raw fear etched on your face. A slow, creeping shame begins to bloom in your chest, replacing the terror. It was just a kettle, a common domestic sound, utterly benign. But your body, your mind, they don't know that. They remember only the sharp, sudden sounds of violence, translating every unexpected noise into an immediate threat. You force yourself to relax, to uncoil your rigid muscles, but the tremor in your hand persists. The adrenaline slowly recedes, leaving you feeling hollowed out, exhausted. This world, this peaceful, quiet home, is still a battlefield for your very soul, where even a dropped kettle can unleash the ghosts of war. You position yourself carefully by the hearth, seeking the comforting embrace of the fire. The flames leap and dance, a mesmerizing ballet of orange and red, casting flickering shadows that stretch and shrink across the cottage walls. You feel the immediate, tangible heat radiating outwards, a fierce warmth that draws you in. It's so potent you can feel it on your cheeks, making them prickle, coaxing a faint sweat to your brow. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the glow paint the inside of your eyelids in comforting shades, listening to the steady, rhythmic crackle and hiss of the burning logs. It's the sound of safety, of home, of a respite you've yearned for with every fiber of your being. You stretch out your calloused hands towards the blaze, open palms facing the heart of the fire, letting the radiant warmth penetrate your skin. You feel it, undeniably, a deep, pervasive heat seeping into your aching joints, a balm to the tired muscles of your forearms. But even as this physical warmth envelops you, a chilling paradox grips your very core. Deep within, an internal coldness persists, a profound, unyielding chill that no fire, however fierce, seems capable of thawing. It's not the biting, external cold of a winter night. It's a pervasive, insidious frost that has taken root inside you, in your bones, in the hollow spaces where laughter and carefree warmth once resided. This internal cold is the ghost of frozen desert nights, huddled against sandstorms, listening to the desperate moans of wounded men. It's the icy tendril of fear that wrapped around your heart before every charge. The shock of cold steel in battle, the emptiness left by those who fell beside you, their warmth extinguished in an instant. You try to push it back, to physically absorb more heat, leaning closer to the fire until the fabric of your tunic feels almost too hot against your skin. You breathe deeply, attempting to draw the warmth into your lungs, into the very core of your being. But it feels futile. The heat stops at your skin, a superficial sensation, unable to penetrate the deep, icy barrier of memory and trauma that resides within. It's as if an invisible, thick shroud covers your soul, preventing the healing warmth from truly reaching you. You can see your wife and son moving about, their faces soft in the firelight, seemingly absorbing the hearth's comfort effortlessly. They radiate a warmth you can only observe, a comfort you can only witness, but cannot truly share. You look at your own hands, still outstretched, feeling the fire's embrace, yet a shiver runs down your spine, a deep, uncontrollable tremor that defies the blazing heat before you. The crackle of the logs feels distant, muted, unable to drown out the phantom whispers of desert winds. The physical warmth of home is real, a powerful, benevolent force. But the chill of what you've seen, what you've done, what you've lost, is stronger. It's a constant, internal winter, a chilling reminder that some parts of you may never truly be warm again, leaving you forever on the outside of simple, domestic comfort, observing it, but unable to truly feel its embrace. You kneel, your knees pressing hard against the ancient stone floor of the church. A deep, pervasive cold immediately seeps through the thin fabric of your breeches, an insistent chill that quickly penetrates your skin and settles deep into your bones. It's a raw, unforgiving cold, unlike the damp chill of your cottage or the icy bite of a desert night. This feels deliberate, a static, unmoving presence. You feel the rough, uneven texture of the worn flagstones against your kneecaps, a dull ache beginning to bloom under the relentless pressure. The air in the church is heavy, still, and smells of old incense, damp stone, and centuries of murmured prayers. Faint light filters through the high, arched windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the shafts, but it does little to warm the vast, echoing space. Before you, the altar gleams dimly, a distant, golden promise. You hear the low, rhythmic mumble of the priest's Latin, a distant, unintelligible drone that blends with the occasional cough from the few other parishioners scattered like shadows in the pews. You try to focus on the words, on the act of worship, but the cold from the stone floor anchors you to a different reality. It feels like a physical manifestation of the weight you carry, a penance not for any specific, confessed sin, but for something deeper, something you can't name. The actions you performed, the horrors you witnessed, the lives you took, all once hailed as virtues, acts of faith, righteous deeds for God. Now, beneath this sacred ceiling, they feel like an unbearable burden, pressing you further into the unyielding stone. Your back aches, your shoulders slump, not just from the uncomfortable posture, but from an invisible load that feels heavier than any chainmail. You shift slightly, trying to ease the pressure on your knees, but the cold is relentless, a constant reminder. It feels like the stone itself is absorbing any warmth, any peace you might try to find. It offers no comfort, no absolution, only this stark, chilling contact that seems to demand something more profound than mere prayer. You close your eyes, clenching your jaw, feeling the dampness from the stone permeate your clothing. This is not the cleansing cold of purification. It's a cold that seems to remind you of every life extinguished, every scream silenced, every moment of fear that solidified into ice within you. The church, meant to offer solace, instead becomes a crucible. The cold stone, a harsh confessor to the sins that were once celebrated as virtues, leaving you with an unshakable internal chill. The priest's hand, gnarled and ancient, offers the chalice. You reach out, your own hand steady despite the tremor in your heart, and take the small, silver cup. The metal is cool against your fingertips. You bring it to your lips, the faint aroma of the wine reaching you first. Sweet, fermented grapes, a familiar, comforting scent from a lifetime ago. This is the blood of Christ, a sacrament, a promise of forgiveness and grace. You tilt the cup, and the cool, dark liquid touches your tongue. The initial taste is exactly as you remember. The gentle, sugary sweetness of the fruit, a fleeting warmth that spreads across your palate. But then, as you swallow, as the wine glides down your throat, a different, far more potent flavor rises, sharp and metallic, clinging to the back of your tongue, to the very lining of your mouth. It's the unmistakable taste of blood. Not wine, but blood. Your stomach clenches, a wave of nausea washing over you. It's a taste you know intimately, a taste that defined years of your life. the coppery tang of your own wounds, the spray of another man's life force in battle, the iron reek of the battlefield itself. It's thick, bitter, pervasive, utterly obliterating the intended sweetness of the wine. This holy sacrament, meant to cleanse, instead brings a horrifyingly vivid recollection of every violent act, every moment of terror, every life spilled. You stand there, the empty chalice still in your hand, your mouth filled with that bitter metallic aftertaste, your throat dry and tight. The priest's gentle smile, the murmuring prayers around you, the dim light filtering through the stained glass, all feel distant, unreal, overshadowed by the visceral memory that has been triggered. You try to clear your throat, to force the taste away, but it clings, stubborn and unyielding, a constant unwanted reminder. This consecrated wine, meant to be a symbol of salvation, has become a conduit for your darkest memories. It's a cruel irony that the very act of seeking absolution has instead intensified the haunting presence of your past. You realize with a crushing certainty that the taste of blood is now inextricably linked to the taste of communion, a personal, agonizing paradox. The promise of grace feels distant, unreachable, drowned out by the bitter metallic echoes of all you have seen and done. You swallow again, a dry, rasping effort, but the blood remains. You're seated at the supper table, the soft flicker of rushlights dancing on the wooden surface. Your wife moves nearby, tidying, and your son finishes his meal, pushing his empty bowl away with a sigh. The air is warm, thick with the lingering scent of stew and the familiar, comforting hum of a peaceful evening. Suddenly, a small, clumsy movement. Your son's elbow catches a ceramic goblet, filled with common red wine. Standing too close to the edge, it topples. Slowly, sickeningly. You watch, transfixed, as the dark, ruby liquid spills across the table. It spreads rapidly, a vivid, viscous stain against the dull wood, creeping over the edge, dripping onto the packed earth floor. The color, that deep, unsettling red, immediately seizes your attention, burning itself into your vision. Then, the world around you fractures. The smooth wood of the table distorts, becomes the rough, uneven ground of a battlefield. The red wine isn't wine anymore. It's a spreading pool of fresh, arterial blood, glistening wet and hot in the blinding sun. The familiar faces of your family vanish, replaced by contorted masks of agony and terror. You hear a guttural scream, not from the distant past, but sharp and immediate, searing through your ears. The metallic tang of gore fills your mouth, so real you can almost taste it, choking you. You're back there, fully, terrifyingly. The air is thick with the coppery smell of slaughter, the frantic thud of hooves, the desperate pleas of the dying. You feel the searing heat of the desert sun on your neck, the fine grit of sand stinging your eyes. The ground beneath you is slick, treacherous, soaked with the same vivid, terrible red. Your hand instinctively grips the hilt of a phantom sword, your knuckles white, muscles tensed, ready to strike, to parry, to defend against the unseen yet utterly present onslaught. The noise, the chaos, the sheer brutal horror of that moment envelops you completely. Then, as quickly as it came, the hallucination recedes, leaving you gasping, your chest heaving. Your son looks at you, his young face creased with concern, his eyes wide as he registers your rapid breathing, your rigid posture. He points, with a trembling finger, not at the phantom battlefield, but at the spilled wine. A small, domestic accident, but the vivid red still shimmers on the table, a malevolent stain, its color burned onto your retina, and the metallic aftertaste of battle lingers bitterly on your tongue. The suddenness of it, the complete immersion in that moment of slaughter, leaves you breathless, utterly adrift between the quiet reality of home and the brutal truth of your memories. The soft crackle of the hearth fire, the quiet murmur of your wife as she folds linen, the gentle, even breathing of your son asleep in the next room. These are the sounds of peace. You sit by the window, watching the muted moonlight paint the silent fields, a landscape utterly devoid of threat. The air is still, warm, filled with the scent of wood smoke and a lingering aroma of last night's stew. Every fiber of your being should be relaxing, soaking in this hard-won tranquility. But a heavy, suffocating weight presses down on your chest. It's not physical, not the mail you once wore, but an invisible burden that makes each breath feel shallow, inadequate. You try to draw in a deep gulp of the peaceful air, but it seems to catch in your throat, thick and cloying. This quiet, this safety, this utter lack of imminent danger, instead of being a balm, sharpens the ache within you. Your eyes drift from the moonlit fields to the familiar, comforting shadows of your home. You see your wife's quiet, steady presence, hear the soft rustle of fabric, and the faces flash into your mind, stark and unbidden. The faces of the men who didn't make it. Young lads, old campaigners, friends whose last screams still echo in the quiet chambers of your memory. Why them? Why not you? The question isn't a whisper. It's a relentless hammer blow, dull and insistent, vibrating through your bones. You feel a profound sense of unworthiness, a gnawing hollowness where relief should be. Their blood, their sacrifice, bought this very peace you now sit in, this quiet room, this safe hearth. And you, the survivor, are left to feel the profound, aching injustice of it. The warmth from the hearth seems to mock you, unable to penetrate the deep, icy chill that has settled in your soul. Your hands clench, calloused fingers digging into your palms, as if trying to hold on to some tangible connection to their struggle, their suffering. You glance at your wife, her back to you, her movements calm. She knows nothing of the faces, the screams, the taste of dust and fear. She shouldn't. And that knowledge, that chasm between your reality and hers, deepens the isolating weight of guilt. You want to move, to shake off this crushing burden, but you are rooted to the spot, a silent sentinel to a peace you feel you don't deserve. The silence of the room, once longed for, now amplifies the deafening accusations of the fallen, a relentless choir of spectral voices asking, "Why are you here when we are not?" You stand at the edge of what was once your most prized possession, the field. The ground is damp, yielding beneath your worn boots, and the cool, gray air carries the familiar scent of wet earth. You reach down, your calloused fingers brushing against the stalks of what should be young, promising crops. Instead, you feel the unexpected, irritating prickle of thorns. It's not just a few stray weeds. It's an entire army of them, an aggressive tangle of thistles and stubborn, thorny brambles that have reclaimed the soil. They are everywhere, tenacious and rampant, forming a dense, impenetrable mat. You try to pull one, but its roots are stubbornly deep, and the thorns dig into your fingertips, sharp and insistent, threatening to draw blood. You glance around. Where the neat, ordered rows of barley or oats should be, there's chaos. The weeds have run wild, choking out any signs of your former labor, asserting their dominance with a savage, uncaring vitality. The healthy, vibrant green of proper crops is absent, replaced by a duller, coarser, almost sickly hue of wild growth. The field, once a testament to your hard work, a promise of sustenance, is now a testament to your absence, a sprawling, untamed wilderness. A heavy sigh escapes your lips, a cloud of vapor in the cold air. This isn't just a neglected field. It feels like a physical manifestation of your broken connection to this land, to this life. Your muscles ache just looking at it, anticipating the back-breaking labor it will take to reclaim even a fraction of what was lost. The thorny touch of the weeds is a sharp, personal accusation, a tangible reminder of the years you spent far away, fighting for a distant cause, while your own home, your own livelihood, withered. You rub your aching back, feeling the phantom pains of a sword wound, and now the very real prickle of these untamed weeds. The contrast is stark, brutal. You battled men, dragons of steel and fire, for years. Now, you stand before an enemy that seems equally relentless, equally capable of inflicting slow, persistent pain, an enemy made of nature's stubborn indifference. This field, once a source of pride, is now a symbol of the immense, overwhelming task of simply existing again, of rebuilding a life that has been choked and overgrown by time and absence. The thorny touch is not just pain, it's a promise of endless struggle. You push open the heavy oak door to what was once your ancestral hall, the familiar groan of the hinges, a sound that should welcome you, embrace you. The air inside is cooler than you remember, carrying the faint alien scent of new beeswax and unfamiliar perfumes, not the old, comfortable smell of wood smoke and generations of your family. Your eyes sweep across the familiar space, the high, vaulted ceiling, the massive hearth, the worn tapestries depicting your lineage. Everything is still largely the same, yet profoundly altered. Then you see him. He's seated there, at the head of the long, polished table, in the very chair that belonged to your father and his father before him, and which, by right, should be yours. It's a large, carved oak chair, its back adorned with the faint, weathered crest of your family. But in it sits a man you've never seen, a stranger. He's younger than you, dressed in fine, unblemished wool and embroidered linen, his movements casual, almost lazy, as he gestures to a servant. His hand, adorned with rings, is too soft, too pale for such a seat. A cold, hard knot forms in your stomach. It's not rage, not yet, but a shock so profound it steals your breath. The audacity. His posture is relaxed, his chin slightly lifted, as if he belongs there, as if he has always belonged there. He laughs then, a short, sharp sound, at something a retainer whispers in his ear. The sound echoes in your hall, his laughter, utterly out of place, utterly wrong, grating against your very soul. You feel your jaw clench so tight your teeth ache. You stand frozen, just inside the doorway, a ghost in your own home. No one seems to notice you at first. So engrossed are they in the new lord's casual conversation, his easy dominance of a space that should resonate with your own history. Your eyes trace the carvings on your chair, the faint lines of your family crest, now occupied by a man whose presence is a living insult. He drinks from a silver goblet, its gleam catching the flickering light his fingers splayed confidently. You remember that chair, the weight of your father in it, his booming voice, his tales by the fire. You remember sitting beside it as a boy, looking up at him, knowing one day it would be yours. Now, this usurper, this stranger, fills it with a casual ease that feels like a deliberate affront. The cold audacity of it is almost suffocating. A silent scream building in your chest that you dare not release. You feel an icy tendril of powerlessness. A grim realization that the journey home has not ended your battles, but merely transformed them into something colder, more insidious. He is a king in your kingdom, an uninvited guest who acts as host, and you are just a shadow, watching your life unfold from a distance. You walk down a deserted track, the gray light of late afternoon fading into the biting chill of dusk. A relentless wind, sharp as a whetted blade, whips around you, tugging at the edges of your tattered cloak. It's an old garment, thin and worn, pocked with holes and frayed seams that offer little protection. You feel the cold air immediately, cutting through the threadbare wool as if it weren't there at all. A stark contrast to the thick, protective layers you once relied upon. The cloak billows around you, momentarily pressing the cold fabric directly against your exposed skin. And that's when you feel it, a searing, icy touch that lands squarely on the raised, puckered flesh of an old wound across your shoulder blade. It's a scar you barely notice most days, a brutal souvenir from a forgotten skirmish, but now, under the cloak's inadequate shield, the cold settles deep within it, making it ache with a phantom memory of the blow that put it there. The fabric is rough, almost abrasive, as it rubs against the sensitive, uneven skin of the old gash. You pull the cloak tighter, hunching your shoulders, trying to create a barrier against the relentless wind, but it's a losing battle. The ragged edges simply flutter open again, letting the icy tendrils snake through, finding every vulnerable spot. Your hands, raw and chapped, instinctively rub your arms, trying to generate some warmth, but the chill feels too pervasive, too deep. It's not just the external cold. It feels like the frigid air is stirring up a coldness from within, a deep, persistent chill that has settled in your very bones since your return. Another gust hits you, and the tattered fabric snaps against your cheek, briefly stinging. The cold then zeroes in on another scar, a deep furrow above your left eye, making your temple throb with an intense icy pressure. You flinch, involuntarily, your eye tearing up, not just from the wind, but from the sudden, sharp reminder of the world where such marks were earned. This threadbare cloak, once a symbol of humble survival, now feels like a cruel mockery. It's all you have, but it offers no real comfort, only serves as a constant conduit for the biting cold, pressing it directly onto the indelible maps of your past. Each gust of wind, each rub of the worn fabric, reminds you that the scars you carry are not just on your skin, but woven into the very fabric of your being, a constant chilling presence that peace cannot easily thaw. Your body itself feels like a testament to the battles, a cold and weathered monument. The small, tarnished pilgrim's badge feels heavy in your palm, cold and worn from countless rubs against your tunic. It's a simple piece of lead, crudely cast, depicting a cross above a stylized holy sepulchre, but it represents everything you once believed, everything you fought for, every promise of divine reward. It's a tangible link to a past life of purpose, a physical testament to your sacred vows. You rub your thumb over its rough surface, feeling the familiar contours, a faint metallic scent clinging to your skin. Your stomach, however, cares nothing for sacred vows. It's a hollow, aching cavern, a persistent, gnawing emptiness that has become your constant companion since you returned. You haven't eaten a proper meal in days, weeks even, since the meager coin you brought back vanished, swallowed by a changed world. The hunger isn't just a discomfort. It's a living, burning thing in your gut, a primal scream that drowns out all other thoughts, all other dignities. You approach the baker's stall, the warm, yeasty smell of fresh bread, a cruel torment. Your eyes fix on a simple, round loaf, crusty and golden brown, sitting amongst dozens of others. It looks impossibly soft, impossibly real, a vision of pure, unadulterated sustenance. Your mouth waters, a painful, automatic reaction. You feel the keen, assessing gaze of the baker, a stout man with flour dusting his beard, as he eyes your tattered clothes, your gaunt face. With a profound, aching reluctance, your hand trembles as you slowly pull the badge from your cloak. The cold lead seems to burn now, a searing brand of shame against your skin. This is it. The last piece of your former identity, reduced to currency. You place it on the rough wooden counter, pushing it forward with a barely perceptible movement. The baker picks it up, turns it over, his expression unreadable, a flicker of something in his eyes that could be pity, or perhaps just dismissive assessment. He doesn't speak. He simply nods, a curt, indifferent gesture, and then, without a word, he pushes the loaf of bread across the counter towards you. You grab it, your fingers closing around the warm, yielding crust with a desperate grip. You don't look at him. Don't meet his gaze, feeling the flush of shame rise from your neck, burning in your cheeks. The soft, wholesome smell of the bread fills your nostrils, but it's mingled with the bitter, metallic tang of self-betrayal. You turn away, clutching the bread, not daring to look back at the empty space where your badge once lay. The hunger is still there, yes, but now it's accompanied by a deeper, colder void. The bread tastes of survival, but the memory of the badge, of what you gave up for this simple loaf, will forever taste of burning shame, a penance for a pilgrimage that stripped you of everything, even your honor, leaving only the stark, undeniable truth of human desperation. You stand in the muddy field, the cool, damp earth clinging to your boots, the wind whipping at your tattered clothes. In your hands, you grip the rough, splintered handles of a heavy wooden plow. It feels utterly alien, brutal in its bulk, a cumbersome, unyielding weight compared to the familiar, balanced grace of a sword. Your calloused fingers, so accustomed to the precise grip of a hilt, feel clumsy, brutish around this new instrument. You try to guide the plow, to force its iron share into the stubborn earth, but it resists, catching on unseen roots and stones. Your arms, strong from years of swinging a blade, feel inadequate, lacking the specific, nuanced strength required for this ancient task. The handles dig into your palms, rough and unforgiving, chafing against skin that remembers only the smooth, worn leather of a warrior's grip. You push, straining, your shoulders aching with the unfamiliar effort, and the plow veers off, carving a crooked, shallow furrow. Beside you, your son, younger and lighter, manages his own plow with a practiced ease that makes your ineptitude burn with a quiet shame. He moves with a fluid, rhythmic grace, his body attuned to the pull of the ox and the resistance of the soil. He glances at your struggling form, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Pity? Frustration? Then turns back to his own work, leaving you alone with your clumsy battle against the earth. The smell of rich, damp soil fills your nostrils, wholesome and earthy, a stark contrast to the metallic tang of blood and sweat you once knew. But even this familiar scent feels mocking, a reminder of a life you left behind, a skill you've lost. The simple act of turning the earth, once a natural rhythm of your existence, now feels like a brutal, impossible chore. Each movement is awkward, forced, lacking the instinctive precision that came with wielding a weapon. You push again, gritting your teeth, feeling the unfamiliar ache spread through your back and shoulders. The plow, heavy and unyielding, feels like a physical manifestation of your broken connection to this land, to this life you once knew. It's a blunt instrument, demanding raw, unrefined effort, a complete antithesis to the sharp, deadly dance of a blade. You yearn for the familiar weight of steel, the quick, decisive purpose it offered. This plow, this clumsy, brutish tool, is a grim reminder that the warrior in you has no place in this new, quiet world, leaving you feeling less a man, more a broken, ill-fitting ghost. You step into the bustling market square, the familiar cacophony of vendors hawking their wares, children laughing and livestock bleating washing over you. The air is thick with the rich, earthy scent of damp soil, freshly baked bread, roasting meat, and the sweet tang of ripe apples. It's a vibrant, living tapestry of sound and smell, the very essence of peacetime commerce, a scene you once dreamt of. You try to blend in, to move through the throng like any other villager, your tattered cloak pulled tighter, hoping to disappear amidst the normalcy. But an invisible, palpable wall seems to form around you. As you navigate between stalls piled high with goods, your eyes inadvertently meet those of a young woman behind a display of cheeses. Her smile, initially bright and welcoming for potential customers, falters. Her gaze flickers, darting down to your worn, scarred hands, then back up to your face, lingering on the hard, unfamiliar lines etched around your eyes, the subtle tension in your jaw that never truly eases. The warmth in her eyes drains away, replaced by a sudden, unmistakable flicker of apprehension. She shifts her weight, almost imperceptibly, leaning slightly away from you, her movements becoming stiff, cautious, as if preparing for a sudden, unpredictable lurch. You pass a cluster of older men, their faces weathered by seasons of labor, huddled in conversation near the well, their voices once boisterous and filled with village gossip. They quiet as you draw near, their heads turning slowly in your direction. Their eyes, once full of easy camaraderie, now track your movement, not with recognition or welcome, but with a guarded curiosity that quickly settles into palpable unease. One man, his hand clutching a wooden staff, tightens his grip, his knuckles turning white as he watches you pass. He doesn't look away, but his gaze is distant, scrutinizing, as if trying to decipher a dangerous wild beast, that has wandered into their peaceful fold. You feel it, this unspoken fear, like a cold, tangible presence emanating from them, pressing against you from all sides. It's not a shouted accusation or a direct challenge. It's far more insidious, a quiet, pervasive current in the air around you. It's in the sudden dip of a head, the quick drawing in of a breath, the subtle widening of an eye that avoids meeting yours directly. You see mothers instinctively pull their children a fraction closer, their small hands disappearing into the folds of their skirts. Conversations that had been lively and open drop to hushed whispers, or cease entirely as you pass, only to resume, cautiously, after you are well beyond them. They don't know you, not truly, not the man beneath the scars, but they see the gauntness, the haunted eyes, the way your shoulders still carry the ghost of armor, the way your movements are too sharp, too deliberate for this gentle world. They see the indelible marks of a brutal world they thankfully know nothing of. This quiet, pervasive apprehension builds around you, creating a suffocating bubble of profound isolation. The joyous sounds of the market now feel muted, distant, as if you're trapped behind a pane of glass. You want to tell them you mean no harm, that you are just a man trying to find his place, to reclaim a life that feels stolen, but the words feel pointless, hollow, lost before they even form on your dry tongue. Their fear is a relentless mirror, reflecting back to you the warrior you've become, the one they never knew, the one you can't escape. It's a bitter realization that claws at your gut. Home may be safe, but you are not a part of its safety. You are a shadow, a ghost, not of the dead but of a life that now frightens the living, forever set apart by the unspoken terror lurking in their innocent eyes. You stand in the antechamber, a cold, imposing space meant to impress. The heavy oak door thuds shut behind you, swallowing the last echoes of the bustling castle courtyard. The air is still, carrying the faint, cloying scent of old parchment and the sharp tang of official ink, utterly different from the open, honest smells of home. You feel the rough wool of your threadbare tunic against your skin, the same one you wore when you began this journey, carrying a fragile hope. In your hand, carefully clutched, is a document, stiff and official, bearing the heavy seal of the crown. It's a king's promise, written in elegant script, for your due payment, your recompense for years of service, of blood, of sacrifice in a distant land. You imagine the satisfying weight of coins, the rich metallic jingle of silver and copper in your pouch. That sound, the jingle, has been a phantom melody in your mind for weeks, a promise of warmth, of food, of a future for your family. You look at the stern-faced official behind the polished desk, his expression a mask of practiced indifference. He takes your document, barely glancing at it, his fingers surprisingly delicate as they handle the royal seal. He then slides it into a stack of identical papers, a stack that seems impossibly thick, almost mocking in its volume. He offers no greeting, no word of thanks, just a slow, almost bored shake of his head. And then, the silence. It's not just the absence of his voice, it's the absence of the expected clatter of coins, the soft thunk of a purse landing on the wood. There is no jingle, no chink of metal, no comforting weight pressing into your outstretched hand. Nothing. Just the hollow, echoing silence of the room, punctuated only by the distant, muted sounds of the castle. Your stomach, already a hollow ache, twists into a tighter knot. You feel a cold dread seep into your bones, a stark, bitter truth settling over you. The king's promise, once a beacon of hope, has dissolved into this profound, chilling emptiness. The official gestures vaguely towards the door, his eyes already returning to another stack of papers, dismissing you without a word, without a coin. You turn to leave, your worn boots making no sound on the stone floor, your pouch still terrifyingly light, utterly empty. The silence that follows you out is the loudest sound you've heard in days, more deafening than any battle cry. It's the hollow echo of coins that were promised, but never paid. The bitter truth that a king's word, for all its pomp and ceremony, can be as fleeting and insubstantial as the desert wind. You walk away, the emptiness in your hand a colder, heavier burden than any sword, a stark realization of how cheaply a life, a future, can be valued by those in power. You sit, or rather, slump, in the hard wooden pew, your body aching with a weariness that goes deeper than bone. The air in the church is thick with the scent of old wood and the cloying sweetness of incense, a familiar aroma that once brought a measure of calm. From the altar, the priest's voice rises, a sonorous drone filling the vaulted space. He speaks of sacrifice, of righteous battle, of the glorious reward awaiting those who have served God's will. He paints vivid pictures of a heavenly kingdom, of eternal bliss, of burdens lifted and souls purified by the fires of faith. His words are smooth, polished, flowing with a conviction that seems unshakable. You listen, your gaze fixed on the worn pattern of the pew in front of you, but the sounds feel hollow, distant, as if echoing from another world entirely. Each promise of heavenly reward, of solace beyond this life, lands on your ears like a stone dropped into an empty well. There's no splash, no ripple, just a profound, echoing silence within you. You feel the rough wood of the pew digging into your thighs, a small, insistent reminder of your earthly form, of this ruined body that still aches from countless battles and endless privations. The chill from the stone floor, a persistent companion, creeps up your legs, mocking the fiery descriptions of spiritual cleansing. Heavenly rewards? You recall the thorny touch of the weeds choking your fields, the cold audacity of the new Lord in your ancestral hall, the crushing weight of the king's unpaid promises. The priest lifts his hands in a gesture of benediction, his face serene, unmarred by the horrors you've witnessed. His eyes, though kindly, hold no flicker of true understanding for the scars on your soul, for the phantom sword grip in your hand, for the hollow echo of laughter you no longer recognize. He speaks of the faithful being lifted, their earthly burdens shed like old garments. But your burdens cling to you, thick and heavy, like the mud on your boots, like the sweat-soaked tunic you wore for years. The celestial glow he describes feels impossibly far away, a shimmering mirage in a distant desert, as unreachable as the comfort you once thought awaited you at home. You take a slow, deep breath, trying to find some resonance, some comfort in his eloquent assurances. But there is none. Only the bitter aftertaste of consecrated wine that now tastes of blood, a sacrament that offers no peace, only a stark, brutal truth. The words are beautiful, yes, designed to soothe and uplift, but they offer no balm to your festering wounds, no food for your empty belly, no warmth for the chill that lingers in your soul. They are empty, utterly empty, against the crushing, undeniable reality of your earthly ruin, leaving you adrift in a sea of spiritual promises that feel like a cruel, magnificent lie. The smell of incense, heavy and sweet, coils around you in the chapel, clinging to the ancient stone and filtering through the shafts of weak winter light. It's meant to be a comforting aroma, a fragrant prayer, but as you breathe it in, it doesn't cleanse your lungs. It coats them, cloying and unsettling. This familiar scent, once a simple symbol of reverence, now feels thick with something else, something sour beneath its sweetness. You watch the figures around you. The new Lord, resplendent in his fine robes, kneeling with a studied piety that seems too perfect, too performative. His head is bowed, his hands clasped, but you catch the faint twitch of his lips, a restless shift of his weight, and the incense suddenly tastes bitter on your tongue. It's a cloying, oppressive cloud, no longer a blessing but a shroud, muffling the quiet murmurs of devotion and leaving a metallic residue in your throat. The priest, his voice a droning chant, waves the thurible, and fresh plumes of smoke rise, momentarily obscuring the altar. The scent intensifies, pressing against your senses, and you feel a wave of nausea. This hallowed air, purified by centuries of prayer, feels corrupted, thick with the unspoken hypocrisy of men who send others to die for God, then return to their comforts, offering empty gestures in ornate halls. The sweetness of the frankincense, once pure, now feels laced with the sharp acidic tang of forgotten promises, of shattered lives, of a faith that feels more like a tool than a truth. You close your eyes, trying to block out the sight of their tranquil faces, the unearned peace that seems to settle on them as easily as the smoke drifts. But the smell penetrates, invading your thoughts, a suffocating blanket. It's the scent of a lie, of hollow devotion, of a comfort bought with the blood of men like you, men whose suffering is acknowledged only with platitudes and plumes of expensive smoke. The incense doesn't lift your spirit. It weighs it down, binding you to a sickening reality. You feel a tight knot in your gut, a physical rejection of the sanctity presented before you. The very air once a conduit for grace has become heavy with the stench of human deceit, the unbearable aroma of piety that costs nothing to those who preach it, and everything to those who live it. The fragrance of worship, meant to elevate, instead grounds you in the bitter, undeniable truth that faith can be twisted, leaving its true believers adrift and disillusioned. The voices of the choir rise, a swell of pure, angelic harmony that fills the high-vaulted chapel. It's a sound meant to uplift, to soothe, to draw the soul towards the divine. The notes intertwine, rich and resonant, echoing off the ancient stone, weaving a tapestry of sacred beauty. You close your eyes, trying to let the music wash over you, to find a moment of peace, of respite from the relentless clamor within. But then, an insidious shift. As the voices reach their crescendo, a different sound begins to creep in, subtly at first, then sharper, more immediate. Beneath the soaring holy notes, you hear it, the desperate, terrified cries of children, not imagined, not a whisper, but a raw, visceral sound that slices through the angelic music, making the hairs on your arms stand on end. You hear the choked gasps, the frantic pleas, the sudden, sharp wails of slaughtered innocence. The beautiful, sacred chant morphs into a horrifying symphony of screams. The high notes become piercing shrieks. The deep bass rumbles into guttural roars of men consumed by a righteous, brutal fury. The rhythm of the hymn is replaced by the frantic, uneven beat of a panicked heart, the desperate scramble of fleeing feet. The incense-laden air, once thick with perceived holiness, now chokes you with a metallic tang of blood, the acrid smell of burning flesh, the coppery scent of death. Your body tenses, an involuntary tremor running through your limbs. Your breath catches in your throat, shallow and ragged. You want to clap your hands over your ears, to block out this grotesque fusion of sacred sound and profane horror, but you remain frozen, trapped in this terrifying auditory hallucination. The choir sings on, their faces serene, their voices unwavering, utterly oblivious to the screams that only you can hear, woven into every sacred note. You open your eyes, frantically searching the faces around you, for any sign that someone else hears it too, that you are not alone in this torment. But their expressions remain peaceful, beatific, lost in the devotion. Their collective serenity makes the screams within you even louder, more insistent, more isolating. The beautiful music becomes a cruel, mocking backdrop to the unceasing agony of your past. This sacred chant, intended to bring comfort and absolution, has instead become a living, breathing testament to your indelible sins, to the horrors you were a part of, that were committed in the name of the very God they sing to. The harmony has shattered, revealing the dissonance of your soul, leaving you with the chilling realization that even in the holiest of places, the screams of the past can drown out any hope of peace, turning a blessing into a curse. You're standing by the well, the cool rope rough against your hands, the weight of the water bucket a familiar, comforting strain. The morning sun, pale and watery, casts long shadows across the village square, and the air smells of damp earth and wood smoke. A voice calls your name, soft and friendly. You turn, a casual movement, and see Thomas, your neighbor, approaching with an easy stride. His face is open, his usual friendly smile already spreading across his lips, crinkling the corners of his eyes. You watch him, ready to offer a customary nod, but as his smile widens, as the sun catches the deep lines radiating from his eyes, something inside you lurches. The familiar features of Thomas blur, then twist, morphing with horrifying speed. His smile stretches into a fierce, mocking sneer. His eyes, usually a kind blue, darken, becoming the piercing, unwavering gaze of a Saracen warrior you once faced. A man whose face was etched with absolute, unforgiving intent. The lines around his eyes aren't friendly crinkles anymore. They are the sharp, sun-baked lines of a desert foe, hardened by years of endless conflict. His face, once so open, now radiates a dangerous, cold calculation. You can almost feel the desert sun on his skin, see the glint of a curved scimitar in his hand, though your rational mind knows he holds only a simple wooden rake. The air thickens, heavy with the phantom smell of dust and the metallic tang of battle. Your heart slams against your ribs. A sudden, frantic drumbeat and a cold sweat breaks out on your brow. Every muscle in your body tenses, ready to move, to defend, to strike. The world around you shrinks to just that face, that menacing, spectral image superimposed over your neighbor's features. You see the flash of a battle long past, hear the shouts, the cries, the rasp of steel. Then, Thomas pauses, his smile faltering, a flicker of confusion crossing his actual face. He sees the sudden rigidity of your posture, the wide, unseeing stare in your eyes, the way your hand has instinctively balled into a fist. He stops a few paces away, his friendly expression replaced by a wary frown. his gaze searching yours with a hesitant uncertainty. He doesn't move closer. He simply stands there, his smile gone. The true face of your neighbor slowly reasserting itself, dissolving the terrifying illusion. You blink, hard, a shudder running through you. The desert warrior is gone, vanished as quickly as he appeared, replaced by Thomas, looking perplexed, maybe a little frightened. You force yourself to relax your shoulders, to unclench your fist, but the adrenaline still hums beneath your skin, leaving you trembling. He offers a tentative, questioning glance, but you can only shake your head, unable to speak, the metallic taste of fear still on your tongue. The terrifying truth slams into you. Home is a battlefield of the mind. Even a friendly smile, the most basic human connection, can become a doorway to a past that refuses to stay buried. You are here, but the war, the enemy, still lurks in the most innocent of places, forever twisting the familiar into a threat, leaving you perpetually on guard. You're walking the familiar path to the church, your boots sinking slightly into the damp earth, the cool morning air biting at your exposed skin. The bells begin to toll, their deep, resonant notes echoing across the fields, calling the faithful to Mass. You hear them, these powerful spiritual sounds, and for a moment, you try to remember the pure, fervent faith that first propelled you to take up the cross. You grasp at it, this memory of righteous conviction, trying to pull it close, to feel its familiar warmth. But as the bell's vibrations thrum through the ground, up into your feet, a different, colder understanding begins to seep into you. Slow and insidious, you recall the gleaming treasures pillaged from conquered cities, the jeweled hilts of captured blades, the heavy gold coins seized from defeated merchants, the vibrant silks stripped from fallen foes. You remember the raw, primal satisfaction of acquiring such riches, the tangible weight of newly won loot in your hands, far more immediate than any promise of heaven. You see the faces of the commanders, their eyes not solely on the holy sites but often on the rich bounties they promised, the territories to be claimed, the power to be gained. You recall the whisperings among the ranks, the envy, the fierce competition for spoils, the way the fervor for God often seemed to burn brightest, where the prospect of earthly wealth shone brightest too. You remember the thrill of the chase, the brutal efficiency of taking what was rightfully yours, not for divine glory, but for personal gain, for survival, for a momentary sense of power in a chaotic world. The bells continue to toll, calling to God, but their sound now feels tinged with a hollow ring, a dissonance that aches in your very soul. You realize with a crushing, undeniable clarity that the hand that gripped the sword, the arm that swung it again and again, was not always commanded by the pure, unblemished will of God. It was commanded, more often than you want to admit, by something far baser, far more human, by greed, by the desperate hope for wealth, by the allure of power, by the need to survive. The memory of the priest's fiery sermons, of the bishop's blessings, now feels like a thin veil over a much uglier truth. You stop, mid-stride, the weight of this realization pressing down on you like a physical burden. The path to the church, once a straightforward journey of faith, now feels twisted, shadowed by this profound, bitter truth. The glory, the righteousness, the divine purpose. It was all there, yes, but interwoven with something far more earthly, far more corruptible. This dawning realization is a cold blade in your gut, cutting through the last vestiges of your self-deception. It leaves you feeling stripped bare, not just of your faith, but of the very justification for the horrors you committed, leaving you with an unshakable, agonizing sense of earthly ruin, commanded not by God, but by the hunger of men. The heavy wooden doors of the Abbey creak shut behind you with a solemn, drawn-out groan, an ancient sound that seems to absorb all light and warmth, plunging you into an almost absolute, impenetrable darkness. The air hits you immediately, a profound, penetrating cold that seeps through your thin, tattered tunic and into your very bones, an insistent, stark chill that feels deeper and more unforgiving than any bitter winter night you have known back home. It's well past midnight, and the vast, echoing space of the nave is utterly silent, save for the faint, sporadic drip of water somewhere in the distant, unseen shadows, a relentless, tiny punctuation mark in the monumental, suffocating quiet. You feel the rough, uneven texture of the ancient stone floor beneath your worn, bare feet, each hesitant step a tentative, agonizingly cold press against the centuries-old flagstones. The chill radiates upward, numbing your toes, crawling into your ankles. You make your arduous way through the oppressive darkness, guided only by the faintest slivers of weak moonlight, struggling to penetrate the high, arched, unadorned windows, a mere suggestion of light. You reach the cold altar, a ghostly, indistinct silhouette against the deeper black, and you kneel. Your knees crack audibly as they meet the frigid stone, a jolt of sharp pain that barely registers amidst the deeper, more profound aches. You press your calloused palms together, feeling the merciless grit of the rough stone against your skin, and you try, truly try, to pray. You close your eyes tightly, trying to conjure the words, the ancient, sacred pleas, the desperate, yearning hopes that once, in a lifetime long past, came so effortlessly to your lips. But your throat is impossibly tight, parched, and the words feel hollow, brittle, like old, dry bones rattling in a forgotten tomb. You push, you strain, you force the memory of faith, attempting to find that lost, burning connection, that fervent spark of divine belief that once, truly, fueled your every brutal, bloody step in the sun-baked dust of the Holy Land. You whisper a name, a desperate plea, a raw, aching question, letting the fragile sound hang precariously in the vast, empty, indifferent air of the Abbey. And then you listen. You listen with every fiber of your weary being, straining past the shallow, ragged echo of your own breath, past the distant, mocking drip of water, past the frantic, almost painful beat of your heart thrumming against your ribs, a drum against the immense quiet. But there is nothing, absolutely nothing, only silence. A deep, profound, utterly deafening silence that seems to swallow your whispered, fragile words whole, offering no response, no comforting warmth, no hopeful sign, no flicker of acknowledgement from the towering, unseen heavens. The cold, unyielding stone beneath you feels even colder now, less like a foundation for sacred prayer, and more like a vast, unadorned tombstone, sealing you in. The emptiness of the Abbey isn't just physical. It feels like a spiritual void, a profound, agonizing absence where the comforting presence of God should, by all rights, reside. Your desperate prayers, once fiercely fervent, now feel like thin, gray smoke vanishing into an indifferent, starless sky, utterly lost before they can even reach a listening, merciful ear. You open your eyes, staring into the impenetrable, consuming darkness of the nave, the Gothic arches soaring into unseen, unreachable heights, feeling only the immense, crushing weight of unanswered questions pressing down upon your very soul. The hope you carried, the unwavering faith that was once your impenetrable shield and your righteous sword, now feels like a hollow, desolate echo in this frigid, abandoned space. You came here seeking solace, seeking absolution, seeking a definitive sign that your sacrifices meant something, that your sins could be purged. The vastness of the Abbey at midnight is not merely quiet. It is a profound, crushing silence that presses in on you from all sides, heavier than any stone wall. The air, already frigid and still, seems to amplify this absence of sound, making your ears strain, hoping for any distant creak, any whisper of wind, but finding only an immense, deafening void. The faint, sporadic drip of water, which once offered a tiny punctuation in the darkness, has ceased, leaving behind an absolute, unwavering quiet that swallows every shallow breath you take. You kneel still on the cold stone, your body numb, no longer feeling the ache in your joints, only this pervasive, internal emptiness. You came here seeking a whisper, a sign, a faint echo of the divine justification that once fueled your sword arm, that made sense of the blood you shed, the lives you took. That purpose, once as clear and bright as the sun on polished steel, had been the very bedrock of your existence, the immutable truth that made all suffering, all horror, bearable. It had given meaning to the screams, sanctity to the slaughter. But now, in this overwhelming, unyielding silence, that justification is utterly, irrevocably absent. There's no voice, no celestial hum, no sense of a righteous cause reverberating through the ancient stones. Only this vast, indifferent quiet, stretching out endlessly, reflecting back to you the gaping void in your own soul. You feel it, this crushing emptiness, in the pit of your stomach, a hollow ache that no earthly food or drink can fill. It's a space where fervent belief once burned, where God's command once resonated, where the certainty of eternal reward once shone like a guiding star. Your mind races, desperately grasping for those old, familiar justifications. It was for God. It was for salvation. It was for the Holy Land. But these words, once so potent, now feel thin, brittle, like dry leaves crumbling in your thoughts, carried away by the relentless tide of this profound silence. They hold no power, no comfort, no truth. They are just empty sounds, echoing in an equally empty space. You open your eyes into the impenetrable darkness, the Gothic arches soaring into an unseen, indifferent heaven. The silence isn't just a lack of sound, it's a living, breathing entity, a monstrous emptiness that devours purpose, consumes meaning, and leaves you utterly adrift. The very essence of what defined you, what you fought for, what you sacrificed everything for, has vanished, leaving only this cold, suffocating, crushing silence where divine justification and purpose used to be. It's a silence that screams of betrayal, not from men, but from the very heavens you swore allegiance to, leaving you with an unbearable, eternal, internal quiet. The soft orange glow of the hearth fire dances across the familiar faces of your wife and son. They sit across the room, bent over some mending, their heads close, murmuring in low, comfortable tones. The air is warm, thick with the scent of wood smoke and old wool. You watch them, their figures solid, tangible, caught in the intimate bubble of their shared moment. You are here too, seated on a stool, just a few paces away. You breathe the same air, share the same warmth. Yet you feel impossibly distant, separated by an invisible, impenetrable barrier. You try to catch your wife's eye, to offer a small, reassuring nod, but her gaze remains fixed on her needlework, her brow furrowed in concentration. She doesn't glance up, doesn't feel your presence, even as you lean slightly forward, willing her to acknowledge you. Her words, soft and familiar, flow past you, around you, but never seem to land sur yon. It's as if the sound waves simply dissipate before they can reach your ears, or your mind is no longer capable of truly grasping their meaning. You hear the cadence, the rise and fall, but the actual content remains elusive, a distant, muffled drone. Your son sighs, a small, weary sound, and stretches. He rises to pour himself a cup of water from the bucket near the door, passing so close to you that the sleeve of his tunic brushes against your knee. You feel the faint, coarse wool, a momentary, real contact, but he doesn't pause, doesn't react, his face still thoughtful from the mending. He drinks, then returns to his seat, completely oblivious to your proximity, to the desperate longing in your gaze. The warmth of the fire, which should permeate you, instead seems to flow through you, leaving a persistent internal chill. You extend your hand, almost imperceptibly, towards the flickering flames, trying to truly feel their heat, to feel anything that connects you to this room, to this life. But even the intense warmth seems muted, a superficial sensation that fails to thaw the deep, pervasive cold in your core. It's a cold that no physical fire can reach, a chill born of profound loneliness, of being profoundly unseen. You observe your own hand, rough and scarred, its existence undeniable, yet it feels ghostly, detached. You are a figure in the landscape of their lives, present, perhaps, in their peripheral vision, but utterly without substance, without impact. They interact with the objects around them, with each other, with the very fabric of this home, but you are a phantom in their midst, an echo in a world that has learned to live without your true presence. This sensation of being a ghost, unseen and unfelt, in the very place that should be your sanctuary, is a torment more insidious than any wound, a slow, agonizing erasure of your very being. You take a sip of water, cool and clear, from a simple wooden cup. It's fresh well water drawn from the earth of your homeland, tasting of nothing but clean rain and deep soil. You swallow, feeling its liquid coolness soothe your parched throat. You then take a bite of the hard bread, a plain, honest meal, its earthy flavor, a familiar comfort you've missed for years. But even as these simple, wholesome tastes fill your mouth, something else, something utterly alien and insistent, stubbornly remains. It's the faint, gritty taste of sand. Fine, ubiquitous desert sand. Not the soft, rich loam of home. It's in the back of your throat, coating your tongue. A dry, abrasive presence that refuses to be washed away, refusing to be forgotten. And beneath it, or perhaps woven into it, is the dry, parched taste of dust. Not the gentle dust of a country road, but the choking, omnipresent dust of a land baked mercilessly by an unforgiving sun. A dust that settled into every crevice, every breath, every memory. You swallow again, harder this time, trying to physically dislodge the phantom grit, to scrape it away with your tongue. But it persists, a subtle yet undeniable sensation, like tiny, invisible grains clinging to your palate. You close your eyes, and the taste intensifies, bringing with it a sudden, sharp memory. The scorching heat of the desert wind, the relentless sun beating down, the desperate search for water in a landscape that offered only more sand and more dust. The flavor of the crusade, a lingering, bitter aftertaste. You try to focus on the pleasant taste of the bread, the refreshing coolness of the water, to assert the reality of your peaceful, temperate home. But the phantom taste of sand and dust stubbornly overpowers it, a relentless, internal contradiction. It's a reminder that even though you physically left that brutal land behind, it has somehow settled within you, embedded itself in your very senses. It's a taste that brings with it the thirst, the fear, the endless weariness, the constant threat that was your daily companion. You finish the bread, drink the last of the water, but the gritty presence remains, a permanent stain on your tongue. It's a bitter truth. You can leave the desert, but the desert will never truly leave you. It's a sensory ghost, a constant unspoken testament to the years you spent fighting and suffering, making a mockery of any simple meal, any moment of quiet refreshment. The lingering taste of sand and dust is a visceral, agonizing reminder that your return home is not an escape, but a carrying of that distant, brutal land within you, forever. You try to push yourself up from the thin, straw mattress, a guttural groan escaping your lips before you can stifle it. Every joint in your body screams in protest, not with the sharp, fiery agony of a fresh wound, but with a deep, grinding ache that feels like ancient, brittle bones rubbing against each other. It's a dry, rasping sensation, an internal friction that promises no ease, only endless stiffness, a profound, unsettling brittleness. Your spine feels like a stack of loose, cold stones, each small movement threatening to dislodge them, sending a radiating throb through your entire frame. The early morning chill of the cottage, even with the faint embers attempting a struggle in the hearth, seems to seep directly into this deep bone ache, amplifying it until it feels like ice has replaced your very marrow. You lift an arm, slowly, agonizingly, watching the skin pull tight over knuckles that feel unnaturally swollen, stiff, and permanently gnarled. Your fingers, once quick and precise around a sword hilt, now move with a clumsy arthritic slowness, resisting every desperate command from your mind. The simple act of clenching a fist sends a sharp, dull reverberation through your wrist and up your arm. This isn't the simple, honest soreness of a hard day's work in the fields. No, this is something far deeper, far more insidious, more profoundly ingrained. This is the lingering echo of years spent in heavy chainmail, the relentless, oppressive pressure of countless pounds of metal against your bones, day in and day out. This is the constant penetrating cold of desert nights that leached all warmth from your joints, and the damp chill of prison galleys that settled deep within your marrow. This is the accumulated toll of countless blows taken on shields and armor, the jarring, bone-shaking impact transferred straight through to your very framework, year after relentless year. You feel the ghost of a particular, crushing blow to your hip, an impact from a mace that sent you sprawling to the sand, leaving a dull, persistent, almost electric throb that has never truly left, a permanent residence beneath your skin, another old wound in your shoulder, a sword hilt smashing against bone during a desperate melee, now manifests as an unyielding knot of pain, a constant, low-burning fire that no amount of rest can extinguish. You stand, finally, after several false starts, swaying precariously, leaning against the rough-hewn wall for support, feeling the cold, unyielding wood against your cheek. Your body feels ancient, prematurely aged by decades beyond your actual years, a fragile vessel utterly worn down and compromised by a life not meant for it. Your skin might have healed from the cuts and gashes, the superficial wounds that mark you, but the damage, the true, lasting ruin, runs deeper. It has infiltrated the very internal structure that struggles to hold you upright, the skeleton that is meant to support you. It's a constant, internal monologue of creaks, groans, and sharp, unexpected stabs of pain, a profound, undeniable testament to the Crusades' true, unyielding cost. This brittle feeling, this deep, bone-aching weariness, this pervasive internal cold, is the last, unhealed wound, a silent, daily reminder of battles fought long ago, now residing irrevocably within your very skeleton, making every step, every movement, a testament to enduring, unyielding ruin, a constant, agonizing prison built of your own bones. You stand at the threshold of your cottage, your hand resting on the rough wooden doorframe, watching the sun begin its slow descent. It's a familiar sight, the end of another day, but something about this setting sun feels utterly wrong, profoundly alien. The sky is ablaze with hues you remember, not from the gentle twilight of your homeland, but from a different, harsher world. The sun itself hangs low, a bloated, angry orb, bleeding a ferocious, almost violent crimson across the horizon. Streaks of fiery orange and deep, bruised purple paint the clouds, a palette too intense, too savage for the quiet field stretching before you. It's not a comforting warmth it casts, but a fierce, almost predatory glare that distorts the familiar landscape, making the distant trees look like gaunt, skeletal figures, and the shadows stretch long and menacing across the muddy ground. You feel a prickle on your skin, a phantom heat, not the cool evening air you expect, but the dry, scorching breath of the desert, clinging to your face. As the sun dips lower, its light shifts, becoming a blinding, merciless glare that rakes across your eyes. It's the same unforgiving light you remember from your first desert dawn, years ago, when the sun would burst over the dunes, a sudden, brutal awakening that promised only toil and blood. This setting sun, here in your peaceful homeland, carries that same weight, that same harsh promise. It strips the world of its comforting softness, bathing everything in a stark, revealing glow that feels utterly exposed, utterly vulnerable. You watch as the last sliver of the sun touches the distant tree line, a final, burning ember before plunging into darkness. Your throat feels suddenly dry, a familiar dusty sensation as if you've swallowed handfuls of sand. Your muscles tense, an instinctive tightening in your gut, anticipating not the quiet rest of night, but the sudden, terrifying drop in temperature, the insidious chill, the profound loneliness of a vast, indifferent desert night. The colors deepen, becoming richer, more brutal, almost as if the sky itself is bruised and bleeding. The familiar sounds of home, a distant dog bark, the clatter of a pot, seem to fade, muffled by the vivid, silent spectacle unfolding before you. It's a beautiful, terrifying sight, a final, dramatic act that refuses to let you simply exist in peace. This setting sun is not a gentle farewell. It's a searing reminder, a daily reenactment of the brutal, unforgiving world you barely escaped, forever twisting the familiar beauty of home into a mirror of your deepest, most enduring trauma.